Joining us now at the UiPath Together Public Sector Summit is Dr. Raj Iyer, CIO of the U.S. Army. Dr. Iyer, thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank you. Good morning.
So I want to ask you first off, where has automation made a meaningful difference over the past year and how your agency serves the public?
Yeah, absolutely. So as we move into a budget-constrained future for the Army, it's very clear that we have to be a lot more efficient with a lot of our administrative processes. It's one of those things that if we can become much more efficient and effective, then we can move our resources to higher value functions, as we support the Army in current operations. So some of the things we've done in the last year with automation really is, I think we've made some tremendous progress with robotic process automation, getting that established at various commands in the Army. It is not to the scale that I would expect it to be at this point, but we've hit upon several key use cases that have added tremendous value. Our Office of the CFO has taken the lead on this for the Army, primarily from the perspective of getting to audit readiness. And as you probably know, that is a very cumbersome process that looks at lots and lots of data across multiple systems to make sure that all of the transactions can be, processed and, we're able to do the checks and balances. And so it makes a perfect use case for how we can use robotic process automation to be able to automate some of those transactions and those checks and balances in the systems. And so they've developed 27 use cases over the last year and a half or so that have turned into multiple bots that run supervised today, but in future will probably run in an unattended mode. And to us, that has led to lots and lots of hours of savings for the Army, which means that now we can take those same resources and focus on addressing some real process challenges that we have to get to audit readiness. The Army has said that we need to be audit ready by FY24 for Working Capital Fund. And so we have a very short span to be able to get to audit readiness. And so that's one of the key strategic drivers that's pushing our initiatives for robotic process automation. Some of the other things that we've done is on the contracting side. Again, you know this pretty well. Robotic process automation works really well when we have repeatable processes that's very structured, and we can just build it and then we can automate the process. And so in contracting, there's this process called determination of responsibility. And it's basically where, when you come in as a vendor, the Army contracting folks, vet you by looking at several, open, sources to identify who you are, what your company does, and whether, you are capable of working with the Army. Again, very painstaking manual effort. And so what we've done is, we've used robotic process automation to be able to go pull data from the internet, to be able to synthesize that data, extract, the right pieces of data, put them in reports, and then make them available, to analysts, so that, there's still some human intelligence involved in, in vetting the company, but then the data collection process can now be automated through a bot. So, and apart from that, I would say there's a whole bunch of other use cases that are, coming up right now, whether it's predictive maintenance, how we automate some of that. How we do invoicing, working with the Defense Logistics Agency, looking at, automating the risk management framework process for cybersecurity. Again, these are all processes that are very cumbersome, take a lot of data collection and aggregation from multiple sources, a lot of swivel chairing, right? And because it's not one system that has the data, it's multiple systems. And so you had to go back and forth, collecting data and consolidating and synthesizing. And so perfect use case for, robotic process automation. I would say we're just on the, in the beginning stages, the infancy of our scaling our efforts, and I'm excited about the potential.
How would you describe the growth of automation robots at your agency over the past year or so, and how do you see that changing in the year ahead?
Yeah, perfect. That segue to what I just said earlier is, I think we've laid the great foundation to convince ourselves that it's the right thing to do. What we do need to do moving forward is, one, establish, reduce the barriers to entry, right? And so that's where my office comes in as a CIO, really is to become the easy button for across the Army to help them go build bots. Because every time they have to go build a bot today, without an accredited environment stood up in the cloud. Everybody has to go establish their own environments, and then they had to go get them accredited through cybersecurity. All of that can take 6 to 9 months. And so there's 6 to 9 months of lead time just getting an environment stood up before they can actually even start building a bot. And so that is the process that we want to eliminate. So what we have done in my office is to prioritize robotic process automation as one of those tools that we're going to deploy through the cloud across the Army. So we'll have a standard accredited environment. And so that reduces the barrier to entry for all the commands. So now they can bring in their use cases, and they can go in there, and then they can start building the bots, and then they can deploy the bots, and then they can monitor the bots. And so when we have laid out that framework, that platform, now we can truly start to scale this across the Army. Some of the commands that have expressed the greatest interest are the reserve commands. So the Compo 2 and Compo 3 folks are extremely innovative, in terms of finding use cases. They're also in an environment that is heavily, administrative. There's a lot of processes that's very, painstakingly manual and paper-based. And so last year we did essentially a bot challenge, where we asked commands to come in with their best ideas on, what they could potentially automate through a robotic process automation tool. And it was amazing to see the kinds of ideas that came out from across the Army. And so we know those use cases exist. And now it's the question of making sure that we turn our accredited platform that's being built right now in the C Army cloud, over to them, so that they can go build out these bots.
How far along are agencies such as yours in the U.S. Army in training employees to use automation to do their jobs more efficiently or do more valuable work?
Yeah, so I think I would say the first step is we need our users to understand what the art of the possible is with innovative tools like robotic process automation. A lot of them, just are not able to comprehend how useful it can be, in terms of automating, regular, day-to-day processes. And so, we have to embark on an education effort to make sure that people are seeing the value proposition, and that's part of what I'm trying to do as a CIO, is to showcase all these great success stories that we have across the Army, how it's saved time and money, but also how easy it is to go build a bot. And so that first step of education is absolutely critical. So we're embarking on doing that. The second is to create centers of excellence. And so the first one that we have stood up in the Army is for financial management. As I said, because our CFO's office was so far ahead in terms of being the pioneer in the Army to build robotic process automation, they have stood up a center of excellence to be able to serve as that center of excellence for all things financial management. So anybody in the Army that has a need to automate a process and needs a bot can now come to this center of excellence to be able to receive help and support and build it. We want to be able to do that and extend that at scale across the rest of the Army. We could have one for logistics, one for HR, one for contracting, right? And then the potential for getting this into the hands of the warfighter, in terms of automating a lot of processes at the unit level. I mean, these are things that we have the opportunity to go do that. It's a question of how do we scale this now, right? And then once we get everybody excited, the next step really then is to get people trained, because we want to be able to do that. We want to truly democratize RPA in the Army. And when we do that, for us to do that, we got to make sure we train the people, and then we keep them busy building bots. And whether it's at their unit or command level, or the one idea that I'm proposing is that we take a crowdsourcing approach within the Army, where once we've created this talent pool of RPA developers, they can actually go build bots across the Army for everybody else in the Army, right? So they shouldn't have to be restricted to serving the needs of just their command or unit. And so this is a whole new approach to talent development and talent management. And to me, this, along with things like low-code and no-code programming, are two of the things that I've called out in our new Army Digital Human Capital Strategy that just got published this week. And we've actually specifically called out these two as foundational to how we're going to transform the Army when it comes to digital talent.
Awesome. As we close out, I'd love to ask how you see automation evolving from back office work, some of that CFO type things that you've mentioned, to more mission-centric activities.
Yeah, so that's great. And again, this is an untapped potential for us in the Army. And I'll just pick JADC2 because everybody talks about joint all-domain command and control, right? And I can tell you one of the biggest pain points for JADC2 is how we have to collect and synthesize data from large number of systems. Many of them are legacy systems that just won't talk to each other, right? So in a sense, we have soldiers today when you have to implement a mission threat like sensor to shooter, are really taking data from multiple systems, whether it's a command and control system, whether it's a fire system or an intel system, and they're actually pulling data from multiple systems manually, swivel chairing. I can tell you, if you go to any commander in the field today, typically you find at least a dozen common operating pictures, in front of them. And so they're swivel chairing across 10 or 11 different COPs, trying to synthesize data, because today there is no ability to actually bring that together because some of these systems don't talk to each other. It's expensive and time consuming for us to build interfaces. They do not have APIs established yet, right? So really at the end of the day, it gets down to somebody logging into a screen, scraping data and data elements from that screen, and then manually populating it into potentially spreadsheets, and then passing it on to some other system that needs it. I can tell you that this is a perfect example of how we can use RPA to be able to automate that data collection and synthesis. And so we'll be looking at other opportunities to later this year to see how we can bring RPA into these kinds of mission applications.
That's fascinating. Dr. Iyer, thank you so much for your time today.
No, thank you.